You brought my attention to something I want to start with, and that was an interview that Michael Porter Jr. did with the One Night with Steiny podcast. Michael Porter Jr., of course, now with the Brooklyn Nets, traded from Denver, has had a very interesting life overall, certainly has a very interesting family dynamic, a tragic family dynamic. But he appeared on this podcast and he discussed at length the sports gambling issue that faces the NBA. I want to play a clip of some of the things that he said.
But the whole sports gambling entity, bro, it's bad, and it's only gonna get worse, bro. Like we really do get death threats. Like if you and the thing is you can't.
Somebody doesn't hit a parlay.
Crazy part is you can't win anymore because if I do too good, I'm messing up the people that bet on the under. And if they bet on my over, like, you know what I'm saying? So you're messing up some people's money.
So Rachel, I think we all believe that sports gambling was a looming, budding problem in the NBA. We've seen a lot of evidence of that. But did you learn anything new from this interview that Michael Porter Jr. did?
First of all, that he's gotten death threats over not making an over or an under just by fans. And, there's a little bit of this in fantasy football also. I have a lot of football players who tell me, like, a lot of it's not fun. Interacting with the fans isn't as fun anymore because they're just being yelled at about someone's fantasy team and not about the game they played or the team that won or just being out there and being good. So I think gambling kind of ups that ante more. And hearing him talk about some of the players' experiences of it, I thought was illustrative, even though we, of course, already knew some of it. And I think the point that he made overall wasn't the NBA shouldn't have betting sponsors, which is kind of where things are right now, even though to his point, and I feel the same way, it's really not about whether the NBA has a betting sponsor. That doesn't really affect the players. They might see like a DraftKings logo in the arena or something, but their day-to-day that get to the arena, they, shoot around a little bit, they get treatment, maybe play a game that night. Like that's really not affected by the fact that the NBA, one of their sponsors is DraftKings. Where it's a problem, he said, is that gambling in general is so legal and so online and so available everywhere in this country. And that is what has made everything so tempting. That is what has made everything so problematic in terms of the fan interaction. He made the point of saying, this is bad, I don't do this. But he also said, look, I come from, a poor family and there's definitely people out there who don't come from, wealthy backgrounds. And if they want one of their friends to make 10 grand, they just have to say like, great, I'm going to hit the under tonight, that kind of thing. And it's hard to track that. I mean, if you're doing it with a syndicate, eventually you'll get caught, but it is hard to track it on the littler level. And his suggestion was that, for the integrity of these sports, gambling should return to Las Vegas only, in person only. And I thought he made some good points, as much as I know it's fun for everyone, including you, Mr. Online Gambler.
I am an online gambler. I do think, and you'd probably agree, that the train has left the station on all this. I think whatever number of states are currently legal, what's it, 15, 20, something like that, it's eventually going to get to 50. Like it's going to get up there with legalized gambling. The horse is out of the barn here, and it's going to keep coming. The death threat stuff, I've heard a little bit of that from different players, different agents. A lot of it, mostly coming through your DMs on Instagram and things like that. And nothing, at least not that I've heard of anything that goes beyond that up at this point. But it's got to be unnerving for like a 22, 23-year-old kid to come into the NBA and, he goes for 30, and instead of like his mentions being people happy for him, they're half the people pissed off that he didn't go for 31 or half the people pissed off that he didn't get 29. So it's it's definitely a problem. And I do think that the one-off situations that he was kind of talking about are probably happening in the NBA more than we think, where it's like, a guy just decides, what, my hamstring's a little bit sore anyway. Maybe I'll just take the night off without, tell my coach on, after a few minutes into the game, and somebody can bet on me and win $10,000. I think it's prevalent. I just don't know. And this is a question I've asked Adam Silver in the past. Other people have as well. I don't know what the NBA does about it. Like, I think they can, and I think they probably will slow things down as best they can. Like, I think at one point NBA owners were discussing like having like iPads on your seat in the arenas where you can, gamble right there. Like, if you're in a legal gambling state, you can bet on whatever you want in that moment on an iPad provided to you by the team. I think that's probably not going to happen. That's probably out in terms of what's coming next for the NBA. But ultimately, it may not matter. Everybody's got an iPad in front of them and their phones. Everybody's got the ability to do that.
Can't use the iPad, so you'll just have to use the phone you have in your hand. I mean, I agree with you, horses out of the barn, and I also agree with him that it's a problem. And it's just, look, some of this is the larger cultural issue that everybody, wherever you are on the political spectrum, like decent people, whether they're more to the right or more to the left, complain about the fact that American culture has become just so angry in so many ways, and that we don't treat each other very well, and that everything's so extreme. And I think that's what we're seeing with these players getting death threats or getting people saying terrible things to them just because they scored 30 points and not 29 and not 31. And when you say, oh, it's mostly Instagram DMs of these death threats or whatever, I don't know, man. We've got multiple cases of some crazy dude taking a gun and shooting people, 2 legislatures in Minnesota, and like it's happening more than it used to. I would be a little unnerved by it, and that's just a shame. You shouldn't have to feel that way to play basketball. And I really also agree with you. I am not sure there's anything anyone can do about it.
That would be my question. Like, be commissioner for a day. Put yourself in Adam Silver's shoes. Like, what can you do in a situation like this? Like, the money's flowing, baby. And like, Adam Silver, he gets asked a lot if he regrets that op-ed he wrote for the Times of the Post, 10 years ago about how this should be happening. Everything that is happening, Adam Silver was an early advocate for it. Would he still write that same op-ed? I don't know if, he knew what he knows today. But given that, I don't know what else is... I don't know what functionally the NBA can do at this point to make things better for the players. Like, they are, as sports gambling expands, they are going to be continually more and more looked at like props. Like, it's just a fact. There's going to be a lot of people watching games they're looking at him, at Michael Porter Jr., not as a guy that can help the Brooklyn Nets advance to the playoffs, but somebody that can help you get rich if he just averages 7 assists per game or something like that. It's just, it's unfortunate, but I think there's not just the NBA, of course, the NFL, NHL. I mean, I've gone to NHL games. I don't know anything about the NHL. And I've gone to NHL games in states that have legalized gambling. In the middle of a third period, I'm like, screw it. I'm betting the under in the third. Like, it's just like, but if you do it in like a way that's not like, I'm not betting the farm, like, it's actually kind of good. Like, it engaged me in the hockey game. Like, I was into it.
That's what I was going to say. That's the dirty secret of all of this, is that the NFL got a huge boost from fantasy football. I mean, the NFL has obviously always been popular in this country, but you can see the numbers took a huge tick once fantasy football took off, because people were invested. Even if their team, had only 4 wins in a season or something, they were invested in other players and in wins, and it became a competition between friends, and your whole family could talk about it. And that never took off in the same way for the NHL, for the NBA, because there's just so many games, right? It's just a lot harder to have that kind of group camaraderie over the NBA or NHL. You have to be more of a diehard. But gambling has actually tipped the scales the other way. There's plenty of gambling on football, but that nightly charge, right? People who like to gamble once a day, who like to sort of have, a few times a week, have that like little charge of, okay, I got some skin riding on it. The NHL and the NBA are perfect for that. And the NBA's viewership is impacted positively by people who wouldn't be turning on a basketball game, but have a little skin in the game, and so are watching a basketball game. And that's, again, the other part of all of this is that it benefits a lot of people, and it also is really hard for a lot of people.